Hello everyone, Atram here, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to discuss Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. We'll have a little discussion about how it looks, how it feels, have a bit of a discussion about how it was presented at E3 and the chaos that was caused by the demo not quite being ready when they said it was going to be, and indeed the amount of times it may have been mentioned in the trailer. We'll also have a little bit of a discussion about the potential going forward for this game and also what kind of doors this could open for Final Fantasy in the future. So we'd heard whispers a few months ago that Square Enix could be looking at some sort of Souls-esque game for the Final Fantasy series, and obviously a lot of us took that with a pinch of salt. You know, some of these news items that come out, you don't always believe them, you don't always think they're going to come true. Yeah, you always have a bit of doubt. Is it just a rumour? Is it just somebody speculating or something to that effect? And you know, there's no point in over speculating until something materialises. And then, it piqued a lot of people's interest, but nobody really expected anything to come of it, essentially. But then, E3 rolls around, and then after 30 minutes of Marvel updates, we got the trailer. We got the trailer land. Just there you go. There's a trailer. Oh, it was after the Final Fantasy Pixel remake stuff as well. Or not even remake. It's re-releases of Pixel Perfect FF1 to 6, which, by the way, I will be intended to look at that as well, to be fair. But yeah, we got this trailer drop for Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins, and yeah, it was a surprise that we got something so quick. And yeah, they told us it was in conjunction with Team Ninja. They're a Japanese company known for the Dead or Alive series, for Dissidia they did some work on, and probably more notably Ninja Gaiden, and also Neo, which is of huge significance for this game because we'll go into a little bit more detail, but of those games from in the past, Neo is the one that is probably the most relevant of their past games for the experience that we got from Final Fantasy Origins, or the demo for it anyway. They waited until the very last second of the trailer to tell us there was a demo coming. Didn't give us a date or anything like that, just says, oh, there's a demo coming soon. And then, yeah, that led to a bit of confusion. I don't really understand why they didn't just communicate a little better on how they were going to do that within the trailer. But yeah, the trailer itself looked okay. Like visuals were like, okay, yeah, this looks very Souls-esque or indeed Neo-esque, and we kind of took it in. The way they presented it, though, however, with the voice actors and stuff, was a little bit flat. I felt that the voice actors probably could have done a little bit of a better job. Bearing in mind this is like pre-alpha stuff, right? It's a demo, so they might even change it. They might change the voice acting direction by then. They might change a few little different bits and bobs. But yeah, I think it was universally accepted that the voice acting was pretty poor. But the rest of the presentation was okay. And yeah, I think part of the reason that obviously it became memed was because of the amount of times they said chaos.
I'm here to kill chaos. Looks like chaos has been waiting for us. I want to kill chaos.
You sure chaos is here?
This is the shrine of chaos. Chaos. We're here to kill chaos.
I become chaos.
And yeah, it's just one of those where if they're gonna create a meme, they might as well own it, right? And I think even the Square Enix account sort of went, are you ready for the chaos, or something to that effect, and obviously it snowballed from there. But overall the trailer was okay. They could have presented it maybe a little better with different voice acting direction, as I say, but other than that it wasn't too bad. So yeah, then we get the demo. Well, no, that's a lie, isn't it? So we got told the demo was coming, and then there was a very seemingly rushed tweet after the E3 event, saying, by the way, it's going to release at the end of the day. And we're like, whoa, what? You're going to release it later? Okay, cool. So everybody waits around, and then it's like, right, okay. So it's going to be on PS5 only. Okay, cool. So if you're one of the many people not with a PS5 yet, you weren't able to play it. I do feel like it was a bit of a shot in the foot and not making it available maybe on the PS4. But yeah, I guess it doesn't matter, because if it's going to be a PS5 exclusive, then I guess I get that. But it did cause a little bit of a stir from that. And then, just to add insult to injury, the time finally came for the download. We all started downloading it, we all started putting it on the system, and it failed. So there was something wrong with the actual game file itself, that it was corrupted. It meant nobody could play the game, or the demo even. And yeah, so we're all sitting there twiddling our thumbs, retrying, thinking, hey, wait a minute, is this just me? So obviously you go online, you find everybody's got the same problem. Nobody could play the game demo because it was corrupt. So Square Enix, after about an hour and a half, 2 hours, acknowledged the problem, and they say, really sorry, we'll get it fixed. And then 2 days later, it took them 2 days to fix that. But when they did finally fix it, we were finally able to get it. It finally launched. We finally got it. By the way, this was a timed release as well, by the way. So after a certain amount of time, I forget what time it is. I'll probably overlay it on the top of the thing. It's like that 18th of July or something like that, right? So after that date, it was no longer playable, and then so everybody's like, wait a minute, it's a timed demo, and also you're making us not able to be playing it for 2 days. So there's a lot of questions about whether they would extend the time. Square Enix used their brains and did do that. They've extended the time an additional 2 days to whatever date I'll put up on the screen in a second. We finally got into the game. So yeah, the first thing you notice when you get in, they've gone for this very dark, dank visual approach that makes it look, you need to put the contrast up, or the brightness up, or whatever, to even see, really. But I feel like it was intentional. The idea is that it's supposed to be like a foreboding place with, that dark sense of, the walls are close in, everything's grimy, everything's dirty. It's supposed to represent basically the Chaos Temple from FF1, where it's supposed to be dark, dank, and depressing. I think some of the aspects of it are still incomplete, and you can see that as you go around. Obviously, I think they'll flesh it out a little bit more once they get the main game developed. But yeah, there's not really a lot of change to the color swatch, even when you go to the outdoors area. In fact, when you go to those outdoors areas, you end up it's that contrast again. So there's not a lot of detail outside. It's just very like it's like that bright, annoying light kind of thing that keeps it dark. So I've never played Neo or Neo 2. But I imagine those games are kind of similar in that way. I have seen a couple of people play, and I feel like it's got that kind of grainy sort of aesthetic to it. It opens up a little bit more when you get to the second half. There's a couple of like sweeping hallways and things like that. And then there's like a section that leads up to the final part. And then the battle arena for the final parts. It's alright, it does what it needs to do. Spell effects and stuff, I actually quite like the spell effects in this. I'll jump into a little bit more detail about the actual spells and stuff in a little bit. But visually it looks pretty good. But considering that it's only like an alpha test demo type thing, right? You can see that graininess, and you can see that it needs work still, but there is potential there for sure. Music, so the sound, for me, when I first played it, I thought the sound was a little bit out of place, because when you think of Final Fantasy and you think of FF1, all that sort of stuff, or most of the situations in most FFs that we've gotten recently, especially if you've recently played 14, where the music is god tier at all times, I felt like it didn't fit the setting when I first played it on my first run through. But actually, as you go through it, and the further you go through it, and the final boss music, and or the final boss of the demo, or the set piece for it. The music for it has a lot of leitmotifs from FF1. And I actually quite liked it. The music in this demo grew on me the more I played the more I played through it. I felt like it felt a little bit off kilter at first, but then on subsequent run-throughs and stuff like that, you go through and you go, actually, this is actually quite catchy music. It's just a little bit that first shock of, wait a minute, what's this type of music? Why is it this type of? It's like an electronic. What's the best way to describe it? It's like. It's just electronic, gritty electronic music. Is that the best way to even describe that? But yeah, the music at the set piece fights are pretty good. The very last bit of music when you're facing Garland or Chaos, so much chaos. Stop saying chaos. The last fight in there, the music's brilliant. As I say, there's a leitmotif to FF1 in there, and it just fits in real well. So with that aspect of things, took a little bit of time to grow on me, but once I listened to it through again, it was pretty good. Combat sounds and things like that, I mean, they're pretty standard at this point. The kind of effects you get, sound effects you get for grunting, sword swinging, and fiery explosions, things like that, they're right. I'm sure they'll fluff those up as and when the game gets developed. And then we got to do it. We got to move on to the voice acting again. This was definitely the weakest part for me. Like the three characters, voices and stuff like that. They were just a bit flat. They were a bit nothingy. There was no character to the characters anyway, but the voices didn't help that either. Like I didn't feel like they added characteristics with the sound design of the characters. It's something that again I expect them to address as the game is developed, because obviously we've only got a small snippet, right? So this part of the game in FF1, the Chaos Temple, if I remember correctly, it's been so long since I played FF1, like we're talking like 15-20 years since I last played FF1. But I'm pretty sure Chaos Temple is one of the first places you go after the first village, right? And so, even narratively speaking, they won't have a lot to say just yet. Which actually dovetails nicely into the story.
To kill chaos. Chaos. Chaos.
Chaos.
Chaos. Chaos. Chaos.
Chaos.
That was it. That was the story. That was the whole story for the demo. Yeah, you can't expect much from it. I mean, even the source material that they're drawing from is quite limited in that phase of the story on the original game. So moving on to combat and jobs. For me, I felt that the combat in general was a little bit slow. However, I am coming from a background where I've not really played any Souls-esque or any Neo-esque type games before, so I fully intend to play those in the coming months, so check that out on my channel. But I think a lot of the mechanics in the job in the jobs or for the jobs in general are a little bit clunky, but they are functional. For example, the warrior, which is the advanced job of swordsman. There's no bells and whistles on that. That's very much I'm going to hit you harder than you hit me. You have higher HP on that, higher strength. No tricks, just sword, smash the things. With Lancer, it becomes Dragoon later on. Lancer is kind of like a crowd control style job. It looks like more so, because it's got the wide area sweep. And then obviously as you become a Dragoon later on, you get the jump ability, which brings you out harm's way, makes you a bit more mobile. And then with Mage I actually found very interesting. So that becomes Black Mage later on. And I quite like the mechanics of that, and indeed how enemies use magic as well, because using your Soul Shield, which is one of the mechanics in the game, it's a block so you can use a normal block or a soul block. And particularly with Magecraft, when enemies use it, if you block a certain spell, you can use that spell and throw it right back regardless of what job you're on, but when you're a mage specifically yourself, the mage craft is interesting to say the least. You basically get like a user wheel, and the user wheel shows you, fire, wind, earth, water, ice, and then as you become a black mage later on, you get flare, which is very powerful. It's an interesting mechanic. I like it. It's very elemental focused. The fighting seems very elemental focused. Like where nothing's more satisfying when you fight a bomb and he fires fire at you if you're not already a mage, or if you just bam, charge up, get your fire charged up to fire auger by pressing and holding the charge button for the magic, firing it at the bomb, and the bomb explodes because he's overcharged. It's super satisfying when you do that. It's pretty satisfying doing it just as a block and send back as well, even when you're on the other jobs. So I can see that being very fun, very, very unique when the game actually launches itself later on. I hope they expand around this a little more. Obviously most of the mechanics in this were for fire. Fire was very much at the forefront in this one. But you could use water on the last boss, I think it was, when he did the flame blade and it put his blade out. Meant a lot of damage didn't come your way. There's also an ice attack that he does that you can put out with the flames. So yeah, I quite like those elements of the game, and I really hope they stick to it and they keep it and expand on that, because it was really, really satisfying to use that, I think. Overall, I think combat wise in general, like I said, it's a little bit slow, a little bit clunky, but it was functional. I love the elemental side of things. If they can just speed it up, that reaction of the fight, I don't want it to become like the full-on action game, because obviously that would detract from the atmosphere that they're going for. I just think it needs to be a little bit more responsive. But as I say, plenty to play for. It's still in alpha. It's still in the alpha at the moment. They only had enough for a demo. It's only a small piece of the game. They will work on it. They'll have all the feedback from the surveys that they're doing as well, and I'm quite certain that they'll give us a polished product. I think they'll give us a polished product where people will enjoy the combat. I feel, and this is coming from somebody that's not a generally that kind of Souls-esque Neo-S type player. So if I'm thinking that, I'm hoping that people who do play those games regularly are also thinking that and think, yeah, I like this combat. I want it to stay like this, or I want it to be based around this. New players to it might be not confused, but it'll take them a little while to get into it. They'll need that little bit of extra time to get into it, I feel, just to get used to the mechanics and how it works. But if people want to play it, they'll get used to the mechanics. They'll learn how to play it. They'll do it. At the end of the day, if the products are good enough and they make the mechanics work, and they're enticing enough, players will play it. They'll try and learn it, even if they're not very good at it. So I played this on normal mode on my first run through. Took me a little bit of time to get up to speed. By the time I got halfway around the demo, I felt a bit more in my own. Then you get the second job, then you get the third job later on, and yeah, it just starts coming together. And then obviously you come to the last boss, and what I will say is the boss design especially is interesting to say the least. Like it's very unforgiving even on normal mode, I found. Again, I come from a game playing games that isn't like this. I've never played a game like this before, so learning the mechanics on the fly like that was very interesting in terms of how much you have to work at it to even. There's you can't make a mistake. You can't miss that flame to get rid of the ice sword. You can't miss that water spell to get rid of the flame sword. The flame to use the ice sword and that's it, the rubber end. It's fine. So if you miss that mechanic, you're going to take a lot of damage. He takes advantage and get killed. If you miss that one dodge, if you miss that one block, it's challenging, but it is interesting, and it makes you learn how to do the dodge mechanic. It learns you how to do the block mechanic. It makes you learn when to use normal block or when to use soul block. It makes you learn how to avoid being broken, and that's how you beat the boss. And I like that. It's quite intuitive. I do like that element of it. It did take me about 35 attempts, I think it was, to kill Garland on, or Chaos on normal mode, but beat him I did, went back, loaded it back up on hard mode, and going through it on hard mode after you've spent that much time, like, banging your head against the boss, actually you come out of it a better player. Like I could go through it, it was fine. Yes, the enemies were a little bit more meaty on the HP side, but it was pretty good actually. You could go through, you'd learn the mechanics. Yes, you had to do a bit more damage now, but on the whole, it was interesting to play hard mode afterwards. I did obviously bang my head against Garland once more on hard mode because there's a one particular move that he's got that you can't dodge, or you can dodge, sorry, but you can't block. You can't soul block and you can't normal block, and you have to dodge it. That he only uses in the second phase in normal mode, but he uses it from the start in hard mode. So that was the only thing that I really had to get used to on that, and he just seemed that little bit quicker. I don't know whether it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but yeah, it's very beatable. It's very beatable, but you have to work at it. And some players will relish that, some players won't. But for me, I'm intrigued to see how that pans out, and I can't wait for the game to launch because, yeah, the combat was a massive contribution for me to the enjoyment of the game in the end. So what does this all mean for Final Fantasy as a series? What does it mean for the future? What does it mean for mainline FFs going forward? What does it mean for potential spin-offs and all those sorts of things? So I think for me, I feel like Square Enix needed to try something new in order to break out the usual cycle, break out the usual recipe of games that they try to put together. I mean, there's only so many times you can reinvent the wheel with the mainline series, and as you know, as much as FF15, for example, was fairly positively received overall and sold a lot of copies and stuff, there was a lot of criticism about the state it was in when it was released, and how they chose to release that content going forward. They tried to release it in an episodal format for the add-ons, and for those that played it, a lot of people, not all, some still enjoyed it, but a lot of people were very... They didn't like that format. When they get a game, they want the game. If you want to add things on later, that's fine, but the game should be contained within the game. It should have the main story in the game and not in add-ons that you have to put on later. And I think after the debacle that was Versus 13 and all that sort of stuff, and even FF13, yes, it ended up selling a lot of copies. It brought a lot of new fans into the series. Of course it did. They did a lot of things well in it. But I think the direction they went in general with it still rubbed quite a few fans up the wrong way with the very linear, very straightforward format. And, a lot of people didn't like the paradigm system. I actually love the paradigm system. It's one of those where once you get used to it, it's great and you can flick around and everything. I actually quite like FF13 on the whole. I know there's a few people that don't know. And then obviously 13.2 and 13.3, again, that they bought those in because they sold copies, right? But 13.2 was a disaster, and then it was saved, thankfully, by 13.3. I feel a lot of people didn't get through 13 part 2. And then mainline FFs at the moment, you're not quite sure what you're going to get. Obviously, we've seen the trailer for FF16 as well. That's in development. That looks to be heading in a slightly different direction too. So I'm really interested to see how the series as a whole evolves over the next 5 to 10 years. I think obviously a lot of focus is going to be on Final Fantasy VII Remake. At the end of the day, Final Fantasy VII, it's not even one of my favourite FFs. It's probably like top 4 or 5, but not, it's not that premier top 2 or 3 for me, right? But people love it, people remember it, people have the nostalgia. It's, for a lot of people, it was the first FF they played on the PlayStation in the West, and I absolutely understand why they want to remake it, why they want to push that sale. But I with FF Origins, I'm very happy to see that they're branching out and trying something new still. Square Enix has a history of producing decent quality mainline series. Sometimes they try and do something outside of that and it doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I think with FF Origins, if they nail this, if they get it right, if they put it in a decent top tier level game, then it should be pretty good for the series going forward as a whole, because it will end up allowing different ideas to be created moving forward. It will allow less rigid thought processes. If they want to go down that Dark Souls-esque, Neo-esque type difficulty and grit in a game, they can, if it does well, right? And the fact that it has the old, that original FF1 backing as a story as well, I actually like how they've interwoven that in. I like the idea of it. Obviously, we need to see more. We need to see what the finished product is. If they can nail this, I think it'll be brilliant for the future of the Final Fantasy series as a whole moving forward. And if people don't see that, then that'd be crazy to me. Like, then even if it does badly, they still need to do these experiments where they try something new, because they can still learn things from failed experiments as well. I'm sure they have that. They have in the past. They've incorporated things into other FFs. I mean, we haven't even mentioned FF14 yet in this discussion, right? So FF7 remake is obviously at the forefront of the mainline FF series that they want to push at the moment, and that's fine. FF16's just started development, and the reason that I'm pleased with what I've seen with FF16 so far is because I know who's in charge of that project, or certainly who's involved with that project anyway, in Yoshi P, who brought FF14 back from the brink. FF14 was a failed game. It's been bought many times before now, of course, but it's just the wonders they've managed to work with FF14 to get it to the point that it's now, I think it's, at the time of speaking, it's just overtaken where it was the most played MMO in the world. That's a massive achievement. WoW has been top of the tree for a decade more, and the fact that people are now flocking to that game in their droves. It's technically a mainline FF series. It's technically even though it's an MMO, it's technically an FF mainline game. It's got, FF13 was a single player, FF14 was an MMO, FF15 was a single player. So it doesn't matter that it's an MMO. It's still a mainline part of the series. And the fact that they've made that such an attractive proposition for people to go to now, people who've never played FF MMOs before. So the previous one was FF11 as well. I actually loved FF11 at the time when I was younger. I played through all that. I spent a lot of hours on that. It was alright, pretty good. If you go back to it now, you're like, wow, I played this for so long. But going to FF14, I am a big player on FF14. A lot of my videos on my channel are to do with FF14, and it's my go-to game that I go to when I'm on Twitch, when I'm streaming. If I'm not playing a single player game that I've chosen for that week or something, FF14 is my go-to game, and there's a reason for that. It's not just cool. There's some great grinding to do on there. The storyline, the world building, the battle systems, it's all been turned around, and it's under the leadership of Yoshi P, who is in charge, or certainly a big part of the FF16 project. I'm really looking forward to how that goes through, and I'm hoping, and I'm really hoping that FF Origins, or Stranger of Paradise FF Origins, is also a catalyst for what comes in future FFs, including FF16. I hope they're not necessarily in each other's pockets, but I hope they're talking to each other. I hope they're saying, what ideas work, what ideas don't work. Can we incorporate either thing into either game? Things like this on a more corporate level at SE for the FF series. I hope that's going on. I hope this leads to more things like that. So I only see this all as a good thing. I don't know if people agree or disagree. I don't know if people like the idea of what they've seen so far. I think it's been a great eye-opener for what could potentially be done. Yes, like I said in my analysis earlier, yes, it's gritty. Yes, it's not finished. Yes, it's a little bit clunky. However, we're not even out of it's not even out of alpha stage yet. It's literally a small demo we've had. I want to see the finished product. It's got a lot of potential. If they do it right, it will be done well. and I think it will contribute to the overall health and productivity for FF mainline creators going forward. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Final Fantasy Origins, Stranger of Paradise. Please feel free to comment below what you think, if you agree with what I've said in this video, if you disagree, if you've got a different opinion on how FF is approached in the future, or if you think they should be staying away from this, this gritty format that they're trying to go for. If you think maybe using FF1 isn't the right way to go about it as well, to introduce people to maybe some of the lore from maybe a different perspective. Is it going to be alternate history? We didn't really even touch on that much. Hopefully that's something we can touch on in the future once we get more information about the game. But yeah, I hope people enjoyed the video. I hope people want to discuss it more. Please look out in the future for other videos. I'm going to do some other FF related videos as well. I've still yet to play through FF7 Remake. I'm about to do that soon. I've only just recently got a PS5. They're impossible to get at the moment, but I managed to get one. So once I'm all settled with that and I've sorted out my capture card problems again, what I'll do is I will probably play FF7 Remake. I might do some videos on that. Please look forward to more videos on FF14 as well. I've got some nice story theory videos coming up for that. Some people may be interested in that, some won't. But yeah, please follow, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. You gotta do. It's all the stuff you gotta say at the end of a video, right? But yeah, I have got a Twitch account, a Twitter account. Obviously, you're on my YouTube account, so please drop a follow if you can. It all helps with development of the channel, or development of both channels. And yeah, if you ever feel like dropping in and watching the gameplay, then yeah, also join me on Twitch. But yeah, I'll see you all on the next video. Oh, he's down, get him! Yes!
Now we're talking.
Uh-oh. Ow! I punched you in the helmet so hard. Yes! Ah, finally. Hey!